I have a question. Do they still do scholastic book fairs? I remember my time in elementary school where they would bring these big standees and have the books all spread out on tables to gawk at and peek inside. Cynically looking back, this has gotta be one hell of a way to get parents to buy books for kids. Having your child bring back the catalog with choices they already have pre-picked out, how could a parent say no to the child wanting to read? But asking this as a 20-something with no interest or intention to interact with children ever again, do they still do scholastic book fairs? The common talking points I see online are that children are just glued to phones now. So do kids still read beyond what they may see in Roblox chat or CS lobbies? Hell, I remember the excitement from seeing my favorite series getting a new installment I could order in the catalog. It would be an instant want if I saw a new Goosebumps, Bone, anything dragon related would be a pack one, pick one lock for me. And yet, the series that would capture my eye the most would be the I Spy series. I Spy was a children's book series first published in the 1990s. Each page would be a colorful, intricate spread, jam-filled with various objects that create a scene, all of which were real photographs captured by Walter Wick. Accompanying the images were rhymes and riddles written by Gene Marzullo, outlining clues for specific and certain objects to find within the page. There's something ephemeral to the interior of the I Spy books. Miniature worlds that, in the mind of a child, felt so lived in and real, almost as though the photographer actually captured a moment in time of this tiny scene, despite the scene itself being so meticulously set up. Even the initial simple setups upon a white backdrop, they still have a quality to them that captures the curiosity to think that there is more to the image than is reality. While this is the series at its least imaginative, this scene still tells a story. The reader is taken on a journey through this Rube Goldberg machine subconsciously, tracing the path until the eventual balloon pop. This cause and effect is evident without words, and is presented to the reader to fill in what's going to happen with only the implication of motion. This is an element that took young readers and kept them interested in the page, because while there is nothing physical happening or moving on the page, the gears are turning in their own minds before they even begin searching for the hidden items that are sing-songily given to them to sleuth for.
Well, when you have kids as your audience, you don't want to lose them. You want them to stick with it. And so in this example here, I would say it's, in photographic terms, it's the most boring type of photography because it's just very flat catalog lighting. It's not very much dramatic lighting. You'll see that downstairs in the exhibition, but I purposely chose the white backgrounds here because I wanted the mechanism of the machine that I made out of blocks and toys to be readable. So I'm trying to guarantee that kids will spend time with this picture. And the part of the way that they do that is with a search and find game. And so, okay, we got them with the search and find game. Find the marble, find the clothespin, find the hammer.
Whether word searches or Where's Waldo, concept of the hidden object game can be traced back to the early 1900s newspaper comics. Simple games to entertain the kiddies who have managed to take the parents' morning reading. Waldo, or should I say Wally as is his native name, is likely the most well-known of these full-spread drawings depicting scenes richly detailed with humans, animals, and objects. Hidden amongst them will be the red and white striped-clad lad, or any of his other cast of characters to find. So tell me, where do you see Wally in this image? What about this one? Or this one? He may not be here, but the origins of his little game can be traced back to images like these. Initially wishing to capture the scenes of peasants or religious rituals, painters would imbue the canvas with endless details and depths to this disordered complexity. Part of the wonder and pleasure of these games are the detailed worlds portrayed in each scene. In every spot, a tiny story is playing out, and even without finding the designated person, it can be delightful to explore such pages, no matter if it's monstrous displays of flesh and bodies, or a trip to the cake factory with Waldo. The intent is to capture the viewer and pull them into the world of the art, with its complexity. But we started with an I Spy page of simple toys upon a white backdrop, without all the noise. How are we still able to consider this in the same genre as the former examples? Well, it all starts with some of the simplest concepts photography can be. One subject, one source of light, stripped of anything disorienting, just giving the most pleasing look at an object that the thing can receive. Product photography. Walter Wick, like many artists, generated a fascination with art at a young age, only he spec'd into photography as opposed to painting and drawing. Really feeling as though he had found a place that worked for his method, he learned photography in his college years, studying both traditional photojournalism and landscape photography, the latter of which enchanted him. It was a way for him to see something that may be familiar through a literally new lens. Hometown rivers and flooded fields can be recorded in a way to capture a new beauty where there used to be modernity. After college, he had managed to land a job in the commercial photography field. Taking photos of products in appealing ways on white backdrops may be starting to sound familiar. The landscape photography was him capturing his interest in big boxy images, where the interest was captured as seen. The product photography was where he could temper his skills in the art of actually studying what would later be his subjects. While photography became Wick's chosen medium, the true art form and talent that emerged from his work is the meticulous arrangement of found objects and handcrafted dioramas he says he often imagined in his unstructured free-form hours of childhood play.
I want them to have a sense of wonder about how these things might have been created. You know, they understand that they're photographs, so they have to then think about, well, what is it a photograph of? I always liked games. As a kid, I really loved making things and building things. As soon as I got out of school, I was outdoors playing in the woods, building stuff. So there was a lot of playing that, you know, any kid would do, but I think I was probably a little more intense about my play.
He would gain assignments and work for clients who aligned more with his predilection for optical illusions and visual puzzles. Most forefront, for our purposes, is Games magazine. Throughout its publishing history, Games differentiated itself from other puzzle magazines by its creative covers that are themselves puzzles, color sections containing feature articles and games, and a large variety of puzzle types, with wit and humor used throughout. Wick managed to install himself as a repeating contributor to the magazine by creating intricate puzzle covers with simple tools and objects. The simplicity was the selling point. Audiences would see these common objects presented in unique ways on the covers, and it may have grabbed their attention enough to snag a copy of the magazine. This relatable commonality was what caught the attention of Gene Marzolo. Marzolo was a high school English teacher, turned publisher/editor for children's magazines and writers for books for teachers and parents, as well as articles about children for parenting magazines. She had commissioned a poster called Fasteners from Wick for her children's magazine Let's Find Out. Intending for the poster to go up in teachers' classrooms, the objects were spread out in a light box. After hours of careful rearranging, a picture was taken. This photograph of odds and ends was the spark that inspired the first I Spy book. A Scholastic Books editor saw the poster and suggested that the series of search and find children's books be made from the artistry on display. Gene would write the rhymes, and Walter would create the images. The series would develop and deepen over time, introducing theming and more directed storytelling devices, yet the core of rhymes with the vast still life photographs would be the series that grabbed the audiences so greatly. Since its debut in 1992, 52 I Spy books have been released, and more than 75 million copies are in print. Needless to say, the series has some staying power for children and audiences across many decades.
My earliest photography was landscape photography. I still do landscapes now, but they might be constructed inside a cardboard box.
Oh, I love it.
I never knew any of this was leading to children's books. When we started I Spy, I felt like I'd fallen through a magic rabbit hole.
Just before her adventure begins, Alice declares,
In this world, perhaps. But in my world, the books will be nothing but pictures.
Your world? What nonsense. Now,
Nonsense.
once more, from the beginning.
That's it, Dinah. If I had a world of my own, everything would be nonsense. Nothing would be what it is, because everything would be what it isn't. And contrariwise, what it is, it wouldn't be. And what it wouldn't be, it would. You see?
a quote not from the original Lewis Carroll novel, but from the Disney animated film. A story about seeing things from a different perspective, where a playing card can be a queen, where you can shrink down into a before unseen world, where the mundane can be fascinating. This same pathos is what the creative team behind the I Spy books were hoping to achieve, capturing that childlike imagination and never letting go. The first initial few books were without a theme, mainly just lightbox white backdrops with the objects arranged flatly to allow for the reader to glide their eye from toy to toy. As the series progressed, themes and motifs would be introduced for the scenes of the book. While not actual text, the theming gave a subtle feeling of progression from page to page. Not the actuality of a story progressing, but the reader can conjure an intuitive narrative, as though they were seeing snapshots from a world portrayed by these simple trinkets. And ultimately, that may have been what captured children the most, was that sense that they could tell that these fake miniature scale worlds were in fact made with real objects, with a very tactile feeling of texture to even the smallest details.
One of the ways I explain to kids how Walter works is to show them this picture. It's the last one in I Spy Christmas. And I say to kids, how do you think he made this? Because they can't really guess that he used 9 boxes of baking soda, making little footprints with a tiny paintbrush and stuff, and they are in awe of it.
As a byproduct of the series' pseudo-still life photography, every image was captured as they were, without any or with very minimal digital editing. Perhaps it was this reality to the images that would keep kids glued to Walter Wick's photography. Wick himself noticed this when meeting fans of his work. These young children would be able to recognize the images they were seeing were not illustrations, but real images captured by a camera. They would flood him with questions of how certain things were possible. Even kids who were unable to read complete sentences were engaging their mind in the endeavor of how the world they were seeing could exist.
What's going on, though, is, and I didn't really think about this when I did the first book but for children, but, we don't teach children the difference between photography and painting. We don't say, now, Johnny, this is a photograph, and that means that the objects really exist in real life, and the camera has captured that. You never teach kids that. They just seem to intuitively know the difference. So, therefore, they had questions regarding these objects that appeared to defy gravity. And their proposed solutions all involved the real physical world. So I just show that letter to introduce the idea that photography can engage the mind in a way differently than a painting would. And if you did a watercolor of that same scene of objects floating, I don't think kids would say, how did you make those objects float in the air? I mean, they might, but in general, you get the idea that there's a different way of engagement. And so that's kind of like the starting point for my work.
The fortunate byproduct of the hide-and-seek game was that the readers would consume every minute detail of Wick's work, simple subjects, but complex, sprawling setups. The term, still life, describes a work of art that depicts inanimate objects, either from the natural or artificial world, often a combination of both. They are called still lifes because the items don't move. Despite that, the worlds in the I Spy books feel as though they were, and will continue moving immediately after the picture is taken. The art of still life photography is in its intentionality, the contemplation and technical skill to set up an object in a specific way, the control to capture it in a photo in the exact way to evoke an emotion, the contemplation to see what is alive in inanimate objects. And yet, we find this art form seems to be fading. Brands are more apt to have an influencer or commission artwork to sell a product instead of traditional product photography. The perception of still life has become that of an outdated practice. Culture as a whole is becoming more insular. There's an aspect to the photography that captures something more real than our real life. From landscape to wildlife, photography embraces the natural world, adds the eye of the artist, and delivers something that the audience is wanting to see. To challenge their perceptions on a subject, or just to see a glimpse into a world entirely impossible, yet equally as fascinating. There is the stereotype prevailing in recent years of iPad kids. Children being sat in front of a screen and not allowing them to experience tactile, fun activities. On the surface, I can see how there is little difference to a child sitting watching a screen and sitting looking in a picture book. But the lack of experiences that inspire wonder and curiosity in a child is what is missing on the screen. The same thrill of lifting a rock and seeing what scuttles out is found in an I Spy book. Engaging in the questions of how the photo is made is a great way to foster an inquisitive mind. And hell, does it hurt that the miniature worlds seem like places you could go on an adventure in and get lost for hours? And what is the use of a book, thought Alice, without pictures or conversations? Chapter 1, Down the Rabbit Hole.